Hello learners, I am Dr. Subodh Kesharvani working with Indira Gandhi National Open University in School of Management Studies. The topic which I am going to talk today is research report writing. I think in our preceding session we have talked a lot about statistics, we have talked a lot about how we are going to do research methodology and how we are going to do statistical analysis. This particular, the block, or rather we can say this particular unit is going to focus more on the report writing. I think the report writing is something which is very important because it purely talks about the presentation. You have done a lot of homework, you have done a lot of research, and devoted somewhere around years in accomplishing a task. Now the time had come where you are going to finalize everything in the form of text, in the form of write-up. So this report writing is nothing but a write-up, how you are going to present yourself so that the future researchers can go through your manuscript, can go through your articles or the thesis or the dissertation and come to the conclusion what exactly you have done in your research from underneath to pinnacle. So this research report writing is an art, and how you're going to present yourself, how you're going to apply, how you're going to recapitulate everything what you have done, what you have the effort which you have taken. So this basically talks about again how you're going to do that problem, plan, data analysis and conclusion. In our preceding sessions we have talked a lot about statistical interpretations, and which was also a part of this particular block, and now we are finalizing it. So we are going to sum up all those things and how we are going to do that. So if you see this particular journey, I think after the collected data has been analyzed and interpreted, generalization have been drawn, the report has to be prepared. And the task of the research is incomplete till the report is presented, because the report is going to talk more about the chapterization, how you're going to make the prefix pages, or it could be the preface or the bibliography what you have used in, and other things which is very important. So the writing of a report is the last step in a research study and requires a set of skills somewhat different from those called for in respect of the earlier stage of research, and the task should be accomplished by the researcher with utmost care. So what you have observed that if you again we can recapitulate prior to going into the depth of this particular theme called research report writing. We have seen that we start with the first block, which was more focusing on research and data collection, talking more about the business research plan, collection of data, measurement and screening techniques, and then processing of data. And the second block is more focusing on preservation of data, I think with the help of diagrammatical presentation, graphical presentation, and now the trend is more talking about the video presentation. So we have talked about the statistical derivatives, measure of standard tendency or the measure of variance was taken care in this particular block. And then this third block was more talking about the relational and trend analysis with the help of correlation, regression, time series and index number. And then the fourth block was more talking about the probability or the assumptions or the testing of hypothesis. So it could be by various ways. We have already have a session on that, and one can go through or just browse the videos or the basket of videos what we have done for the learners, and they can find out. And then interpretation and reporting is there, and then we have seen that how much important the statistical interpretation is, and then research report writing is there, because research report writing is an art we have already talked about. And if you go into a backdrop, you will find out that we are going to cover in this report writing the purpose of report, types of report, stages in preparation of a report, characteristics of a good report, structure of the report, and then the checklist, because the research reports include introduction, methods, results, discussion and references, and it's based on the certain chapters or the units which we usually do, and they start with the conceptual chapter, and then you have a research methodology chapter, and then the how you're going to interpret the research, and then data analytics is there, and finally the conclusion is there. So roughly somebody have 5 chapters or the 7 chapters or the 9 chapters which are usually in the odd number mode. So the research reports include introduction, methods, results, discussion and references, and emphasis is placed on relating previous lessons activity to the original research questions and hypothesis. So research report, if we are going to talk about, document in which the research and analysis data is organized and presented by the researcher in a systematic manner. It is a publication comprising of The purposes, scope, hypothesis, methodology, findings, limitations, recommendations, and conclusions of the research project. So simply put, a research report in the record of the research process. It is one of the most important segments of the research, as the research work is said to be incomplete if the report is not prepared. So that is more important, because the future researchers, or the future learners, are going to see your reports, are going to see your thing with that. So research report is a document containing collected and considered facts taken to provide succinct and comprehensively information to people, and once the research process is over, the entire work is produced in a written material which is called a research report, or the manuscript we can say. So it covers the description of the research activity in an elaborative manner, and it contains the data analysis, data collections, results and findings, bibliography and appendices, or the annexes are there. So if we distinguish between the research proposal with research report, I think research proposal is a medium through which a researcher can introduce the research problem and convey the need for research. And it plays a significant role in application process. It gives a snapshot of the questions that the researcher wants to answer with the help of the research. So moreover, it states the methodology which the researcher is going to use during the research process, and we have seen that as far as the research report is concerned, is the culmination of research endeavor, and this report is talking many things. It talks about what pedagogy we have taken, how the literature is going to be reviewed, and what were the factors which had been taken, and what are the tests which is going to apply. So the research report is going to give learners, the future learners or the future researchers, a roof to do the literature review and try to find out, because somebody have done the research. When somebody had done the research and they left some gaps, they left some future findings, and these future findings are quite useful for the future researchers, because these future findings can provide us researchers to start a journey. So that I have already mentioned in our preceding session that when we talk about the statistical data, I think statistical data varies with the change of time. For certain circumstances, for certain scenario, it is raw. It is in raw format, and for others it could be a finish. So the data nomenclature, the data characteristics is changing with the change of time, and you will observe that for somebody that these data are working as a secondary data, and for others it can work as a primary data. So it is how you're going to use that. So if you see the comparison, I think comparison is very important, and basis for comparison is between the research proposal and research report is that if we talk about the meaning, research proposal refers a brief and cogent synopsis of the proposed research in a written form, and research report refers a document that systematically, coherently and methodically presents the research work in a written form. So proposal there is a scope that you can have a scope of changing the proposal, but when you make a report, when you finalize the DPR or the detailed project report, you have just finalized that. So if we talk about the proposal, or if we talk about the thesis, I think the synopsis is something which comes under the ambit of the research proposal, and when you talk about the final dissertation or final thesis, it can be called as a research report. So written in future tense, in past tense, and preparation is at the beginning of the project and after the completion of the project. When you talk about the research report, length is very short. It could be abstract, it could be a glimpse of what we have talked about, and when you talk about the research report is a comparatively long. So it deals with problem or topic to be investigated. When you talk about research proposal, and when you talk about the research report, results of the completed research work is taken care. And when you're going to determine what will be the research and why the research is important and how the research will be conducted, this could be a research proposal. And when you talk about the research report, what is research, what sources are used to collect data, and how the data is collected. And this is all about the statistical analysis which we have learned, and that is going to apply from underneath to pinnacle, and what are the findings and what are the recommendations for future research. It need to be taken care. So chapters are the introduction, literature review and research methodology. And if you talk more about the research report, the chapters could be the introduction, literature review, research methodology, data analytics, results, interpretation and analysis, and finally the conclusion and recommending remarks are also a part of the research report. So the purpose of a report is what? The report may be meant for the people in general when the investigation has not been carried out at the instance of any third party. And research is essentially a cooperative venture, and it is essential that every investigator should know what others have found about the phenomena under study. And the purpose of a report is thus the knowledge broadcasting of generalization so as to ensure their widest use. And we have seen that in generalization, when we were talking about the methods, either could be the logical methods or statistical methods, we have seen that because when you talk about the generalization, you are talking about the depthness of anything, and you go into the depth of the particular thing and try to extract the information from there. So report is a ready reckoner, it's a elaborative thought, it's a combined, the work which you have done, and it had now converted into that format which could be called a manuscript or the complete the report. So if we talk about the types of report, it could be bifurcated into informational, analytical and persuasive. And if we talk about the informational, inform or instruct, present information, reader sees the detail of events, activities or conditions, no analysis of the situation, no conclusion, no recommendation are there. And when you talk about analytical, written to solve problems, information is analyzed, conclusions are drawn and recommendations are made. So this is called the analytical. And when you talk about the persuasive, an extension of analytical reports, main focus is to sell an idea, a service or product, and proposals are the most common type. So reports usually have a more diverse audience, more than one purpose and more detailed information, because the end of the day, the people believe in getting a finished good. So the raw products are always available, but when you give the things in a ready reckoner format or in a foolproof format, I think it's have a great acceptability as compared to the proposal, because proposals can deviate it, but the reports are the facts. So it could be the incidental report. If we talk about the types of report, apart from what we have discussed in our preceding slides, I think incident reports are there, a report describing how close you are completing something what you have planned. And when you talk about the accident report, a report describing how many goods or services were sold and the reason for any difference from the plan. And there are sales reports also, a report on what has happened in a place and how close your organization is finishing the construction or the achieving the particular task. And the progress report is there, an academic report on how and why something has changed over time. This would be under the ambit of progress report. And feasibility study, a report describing something that has happened. And case study is there, a report describing how you're going to talk more about the real life scenarios or the thing which is there. So periodic operating reports are there, which we usually call the annual reports, and compliances are there, and then research studies are there to study problems scientifically by analyzing a problem, developing hypotheses, collecting data, analyzing data and drawing conclusions. So if we talk about the stages in preparation of a report, research reports are the product of slow and painstaking and accurate work, and the preparation of the report may be viewed in the following major stages: the logical understanding and analysis of subject matter, planning and designing the final outline of the report, write-up, preparation and rough draft, because if you are not going to prepare the rough draft, if you're not going to read the proof, I think when you're going to finalize the report, the write-up need to be written, and the proofs or the rough draft need to be cautiously checked in a routine manner. So you have a first draft, second draft, a third draft, and these rough draft can somewhat enhance the report credibility. So finalizing the report is there. And if you talk about the structure of a research report, I think prefactory items are there, text or body is there, then terminal items are there. So if you talk about the prefactory items, I think the blank sheet, the title page, approval sheet, research declaration, dedication, preface, TOC, which we usually call the table of content, list of tables, list of graphs, charts, figures, list of cases, and abstract need to be highlighted. And text or body is going to be bifurcated in certain chapters. And chapter 1 talks about the introduction, chapter 2 talks about the description of evidence, chapter 3 talks about research methodology, chapter 4 talks about the data which we have used in our data analytics are there, and finally the summary, conclusion and recommendations are there, because these are considered. So there are certain chapters which are part of the which are known as the body part, and there are certain chapters which work as a prefix or suffix. So when we start a chapter, we start with the preface or or at the end, as far as the suffix is concerned, it could be the appendix, glossary, bibliography, index, or blank sheet. So this whole, the research report is bifurcated into first part, predictory items, and then text or body, and then terminal items are there. If we talk about the prefatory items, I think the title pages are there, approval sheets are there, researcher declarations are there, dedication, preface or acknowledgement are there, and table of content, list of tables are need to be done, because and proper numbering also should be done, so that so the viewers can very easily visualize the thing that this particular table is related with this. So there must be a pedagogy where you can depict the tables or the graphs with the help of numbers or the case or exhibit which you have taken. So abstract is also there, and abstract work as a synopsis, which we have already talked about. And what we have seen that the signification and justification of the topic is very important, because when you're going to talk about the theoretical background of the problem and methodology adopted for by which you can narrow down the problem, I think there are certain aspects which need to be taken care, like significance and justification of the topic, theoretical background, statement of the problem, literature review, objectives of the study, hypothesis to be tested. We have very elaborately talked about the how we are going to check the hypothesis, how we are going to test the hypothesis, because testing the hypothesis can give you a roof that whether you're going to accept the null hypothesis or reject the null hypothesis. And when you're going to talk about the objectives of the study, I think how this objective is going to come. If we go into a backdrop and find out, we start diagnosing a problem or find out the certain theme where we can start excelling our research. So then the literature of review comes, where literature review is going to be taken care. And when you review the literature, massive review, or when you do a lot of reviews, then you come to a conclusion that these are the certain gaps which need to be explored. So what exactly you do, you narrow down those gaps and convert it into objectives, and these objectives are converted into hypotheses, and then from this hypothesis you make certain questions, and which can be part of the questionnaires. Either it could be the open-ended questions or closed-ended questions, and then you float these questionnaires to the respondents, and when respondents reciprocate, you start accumulating all those data, which usually called the first-hand data. And these first-hand data can keep somewhere and tabulated or collected, and then it could be done in a pictorial manner. It either could be done in a bar chart, or in a pie chart, or the various ways of knowing the trend, which can be either done with the help of regression analysis or correlation analysis. So by that, so scope of the study is also need to be done, and period of study, like reference period, like for what period you are taking, the jurisdiction which you are taking, and what could be your universal, what could be your population, what could be your target population, and source of data, what exactly you are taking. You are going to take a primary data or secondary data or both. And methods of data collection could be like sampling, like the sampling techniques you are going to apply, sampling methods you are going to apply. It could be the non-random sampling or the random sampling, or it could be a small sample or the large sample, because if the sample size is less than 30, you apply the t-test. If sample size is more than 30, you go for the z-test or ANOVA test. So that also need to be taken care, because the moment you analyze or go for the testings, I think somewhere, and there are chances that the manner you are going to get the results, you are not going to, if in the manner you are not going to get the results, what exactly you have thought of, whether you are going to enhance your sample or change your data size, or change your hypothesis, or add some new objectives, because the moment you twist the objective, moment you take some more of the hypothesis, I think the results is going to vary, and your whole the research plan is going to be affected by that. So all those this data collection instrument, all those field work is very important, because if you have started with the wrong modus operandi, I think you reach to a wrong conclusion. So your pedagogy, your modus operandi is going to be very important, and if you are quite cautious into it, I think somewhere you can get a result which could be which could be quite acceptable to all. So data processing, analysis plan, limitations of the study, and overview of the report, like the chapter plan need to be taken care. So there are certain tips for successful writing. I think plan to write regularly, make a time plan and stick to it, and you have to adhere to the time plan, because if you are not going to accomplish the task in a prescribed time frame, I think the majority of things become redundant, and ultimately what happens, the other researchers who are doing the research in the similar domain, they can uh, they can come up with their thought, and your research, your product is going to become obsolete by that time. So you have to adhere to a time plan, and you have to stick to that. And because if you are going to enhance a time plan, I think a lot of changes coming up, because the way, if you talk about the business, if you talk about the commerce, if you talk about the e-commerce, I think that the trend is changing. There was a time when we talked more about shifting from brick and mortar system to the simple the commerce or electronic commerce. Now today we more talk about the app based, and in tomorrow's scenario, if we talk about, we are more talking about use of artificial intelligence in commerce. So this is going to more talking about the usage of robots, or the machine learning phenomena. And this is not apply in business, it's apply in education also, and apply in learning also, where you have seen that how the learning is going to change with the change of time, and the instructor is now no more humans, they are the robots. So this kind of phenomena is coming up, where the more thought-provoking contents are coming up, and these contents are quite agile in nature and quite useful, because it talks more about the real life scenarios, or the latest trends, or the current the updates. So decide where and when best for you, and don't write when exhausted, and you can take a support. I think the whole successful writing talks more about the teamwork. So you can take the help of your peers, you can take the help of your past researchers, you can talk about your mentors, and how your mentors are going to navigate. That is somewhere things are quite important. What are examiners looking for, like, and when you're going to talk more about review of literature is there, methodology is there, presentation of results are there, discussion and conclusions are there. So I think I have talked a lot about this particular thing, and this research report writing is a routine matter. It's not like that when you have done everything, then you start writing a report, or it's something which can be start from the inception stage. And the moment you have make your mind that you are going to make a report, you are going to write a paper, you are going to write a research thought or an article, or a thesis or dissertation, there must be a planning which is very important. And if you have planned the thing, I think and when you talk about the dissertations, when you talk about the thesis, no doubt it's a long-term affair, but for this long-term goal, I think you have to have certain short-term goals in your mind. So if you want to achieve a long-term goal, you start with the short-term goal, and then see what exactly the things are going to be done. So if the tenure of the thesis or the doctoral student is 3 years or 5 years, they have to bifurcate those 3 years or 5 years in such a manner that very easily they can accomplish the certain layers. So the first layer is more focusing on this aspect, and second layer is more talking about that aspect. So anyway, I think we have talked a lot about this particular aspect, and we know that this research report writing is very important phenomena, and this research report writing is more talking about how, it's not more talking about that how you are going to write a report, how this report is going to be useful for the future researchers. So for us, maybe it could be just a small product, but for the future researchers, it could be work as a benchmark, it work as a the learning tool. So when you are making a report, when you are making a final draft, I think, and it could be uploaded on the web, on the servers, or on the search engines. I think it's become a public document. And when any document become a public document, I think it need to be quite fruitful. It need to be quite useful for the learners. I think I have talked a lot about this research report writing. This particular course, MCO-03, Research Methodology in Statistical Analysis, is a very contemporary course with a very versatile structure. And if you go into a backdrop, you will find out that it's not merely talking about the methodologies and the statistical analysis, but finally, if you talk about, it can talk about how the researcher can imbibe the research thought inside themselves, and then how they are going to be useful for the future research. So the today researchers can become a mentor for the future researchers. So thank you very much. We have some more thought-provoking sessions in a different domain, in a different subject, and I hope that the learners can going to be benefited by that, and for more details they can go through our IGNOU portal also, where we have a text of all these materials, and they can find out the text which can defend this particular videos or the presentation what we are delivering today. Thank you very much. Thank you.